Order. The first order of business is the approval of the December 19th, 2017 regular meetings, minutes of the regular meeting. Do I have an approval?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Do I have a second? All those in favor of approving the December 19th minutes signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Okay. Show the minutes were approved. Okay? Will.
Sorry, I'm late.
No, you weren't late. I got anxious. We carry over for every meeting a good discussion of development of the west side, just so we'll keep it on our minds. It won't go away from us. So anyway, long story short is we've had a couple. We've got some nibbles. So why don't you? We talked a little bit yesterday about that, and so anyway.
We do have some interest on the west side, I think for the first time in a long time. An unidentified prospect in the aviation-related business is being shown some lots or some possibilities on the west side. Other than that, I don't know much about it, but it sounds interesting, and we are assured that the prospect is financially qualified and stable.
And that's all we know, Jack. I mean, that's a Lee Lawson, kind of let's keep it under the vest. But that's what we know. We've also had a dialogue. We've had a dialogue with Auburn about a flight school, and we think that's still being discussed. So we'll see where that goes too.
So has there been any contact by the airport authority with Auburn since that meeting?
We have not. I got an email from Sherry Lee saying that there had been some follow-up conversations, only after I prodded her. But Chip and I will see the Auburn people in first of February at that meeting, and we will get some information in. Okay. Then the next item 3 is every 5 years we have to renew our engineer of records. Who our engineer of record is. For the last 10 years, that has been Boker, and we've been very pleased with their work effort. But under FAA requirements, every 5 years we have to basically do a request for proposals, publish it in all throughout the state, and solicit bids, and then basically evaluate those bids, which is a challenge, and make a recommendation for an engineer of record. Going forward. So having said that, what I'd like is an approval to start that process. Josh and I have had a conversation about it. We've got it. We've drafted a preliminary request for proposal. We probably need to do some work on the quantifying factors, but I think the request for proposal is in pretty good shape. Josh, you want to comment on that?
No, nothing really to comment on. We've taken the one that we used 5 years ago as far as the RFP is concerned, and we've just kind of modeled it after that. So that'll be the one that we publish, correct? That was my understanding. And then we'll hopefully see what comes in and evaluate the proposals after that.
Well, I mean, 5 years ago, we got 7 really good proposals from 7 really good firms, and that had a lot of thought had been put into them. So. It's a good thing, but like I said, I think we need to. I'd like to have an approval to start that process and try to go forward in the next couple of weeks, getting that RFP out.
That outline that you got, Josh, where'd you get that outline?
That was from one of the FAA advisory circulars, and the circular itself was probably about 100 pages, but buried within that was that flow chart that says, here's your process that you go through when you select the engineering firm. So,
Did you send that to everybody?
Yeah.
No, I didn't, but I can.
But you can. The tough thing, Vince, is coming up with the factors that we consider the most important. I mean, that's
A lot of variables there.
Yeah, a lot of variables there. You can kind of weigh the decision up front. Anyway. So do I have a motion that we move forward with an RFP for an engineering services contract?
A motion that we move forward with the RFP for engineering contract.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor of moving forward with engineering service contract, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. Any opposed? Okay. All right.
That flow chart's talking about it, it's very informative,
Very
and
good.
it makes you realize there's more to the process than
Yes.
than
And I-
just the RFP.
And I'll send out we can send out that preliminary RFP, we can send that to the board too, don't you think?
Oh, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think both of those together, we'll kind of tell you what we're doing, what we're trying to do, so. Okay. All right, Pam, do you want to talk about the biennial review of the Sonny Callahan Airport Security and Emergency Response Plan?
Yes, I updated it, and I submitted it, and we were ahead of schedule.
That's an amazing task, so, anyway, it's done for another 2 years, is it 2 years?
2 years, it's done for another 2 years, and so there were updates to be done on points of contact and so forth and so
There were
on.
lots of updates, I mean, we did a pretty thorough review of it, so.
We did a very thorough review, but anyway, it was reviewed a number of times and till my eyes were crossed, and it's done and it's submitted.
Hey, do we ever get any feedback if that's, I mean, if the FAA has any questions about it, do we ever get would we get feedback or?
For the terminal area plan?
Yeah, oh, no,
Yes,
for the-
they were fine.
No, I'm talking about for the emergency response plan.
No, I have not seen anything.
Okay, I mean, I guess, I mean. if
That
it-
would, I don't think that would come to me, it would come straight to Ms. Pam or you guys.
Okay,
I may get copied on it, but I haven't seen anything since I gave you the information you
Yes.
requested.
And I do want to thank Hal for getting those updates to us in a timely manner. Turned it around in about 4 days.
well, I want to thank you for doing it. I mean, that was quite a, I mean, sitting down and doing it is, I mean, it's easy to about talking about doing it, but actually doing it was very much appreciated.
You're welcome.
Okay.
And now we have to distribute out to the emergency personnel and so forth, and tenants and so forth.
Jack, we give it to the fire chief and the.
Police chief and
everybody.
emergency manager and, others we share that with.
You just put it in their mailbox, or is that, I mean, you hand deliver it? How
Hand
do you-
deliver it and get a signature.
Right.
Who has it?
Okay, Pam, do you want to handle the planning for the business after hours?
Yes, we had a meeting with Casey Williams and her staff at the Eastern Shore Chamber of Commerce in connection with open house at the Hicks Hangar on March 1st and a fly-in event by the War Eagle Birds. This is National Association of Individuals who privately own vintage military aircraft and fly it. And the gentleman who's currently the president has recently relocated to Fairhope, and he is arranging for the fly-in to be at the same time. So that should bring in approximately 15 vintage warcraft planes to the airport. And so then there will be an associated revenue stream, people staying in hotels, people eating, etc. Also associated aviation fuel sales, which will be really nice for that aircraft.
These are MiGs.
Yeah. And at the same time, it will be the business after hours for March 1st. So we have started the planning for that, and we are due to have another meeting in a couple of weeks. And Casey Williams said that attendance could be between 100 and 150 people. So
We need a budget for
We did.
refreshments.
we talked about a budget.
I have not done the budget, but I did a back of the envelope calculation. I think we
Yes.
can do it for I can get a couple of people to help me sponsor it. I think I can do it for $1,000. I'd like a motion that we spend up to $1,000 to host a business after hours. Which I think we'll get back in almost in fuel cells.
Well,
Make
there.
that motion.
Go ahead.
Well, you just made a motion? Okay, I'll second that, now we'll have discussion.
Okay.
A number of the individuals coming in that own these aircraft, again, this is an opportunity to introduce a high-wealth cadre of people to Fairhope And that goes along with our overall plan that Fairhope is a good place to live, it's a good place to work, and it's a good place to play. So we will also have literature and so forth there marketing our efforts for the airport. So it's a good opportunity. And again, it gets our message out to a national cadre of people. So, let's vote on that.
Okay, all those in favor of spending up to $1,000 to have a business after hours at our airport, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, ayes have it. Ray, do you have any comments? Since, I mean, obviously, you're a big player in this because you're going to let us use your hangar.
I just, I think it's a great opportunity. It's a great opportunity to showcase some of the positive, economic development efforts that the airport authority is doing. But, I also want us as a committee to, I'm opening this facility up, and I do want to make sure that it's, that you guys, when you're looking at the budget, I want to be some sort, look at the insurance, and maybe Josh, you look at that if people come over there that,
We'll take care, make sure everything's taken care of.
But I think it's a great opportunity and a good opportunity to bring in these warbirds and kind of generate maybe some interest from, younger people in aviation. It's been a while since we've had any events at the airport.
And we're going to have with this, we're going to have a tour of the Aviation Academy.
Yes.
And we're also going to have a tour of Continental, I think we're going to have a tour of Continental Motors. Is that part of the plan?
We're working on the details.
So, we'll get 3 for 1. We'll get an aviation, we'll get a tour of the hangars, see what the airport's about. We'll get a tour of the Aviation Academy, and we'll let Continental fly their flag a little bit. So I think it's a good thing.
What are some creative ways we can market the airport? How much do these caps cost with the Fairhope Airport logo?
I've always got mine from Chip. I thought they were free.
Chip leaves his in the back of my plane. I have to return it to the time.
That's right. Where's your head? It's Vince's airplane.
Well, we need,
If you need a FedEx head, I can get you one.
There's I have a, William, I have a friend that has a company called Aviate out of Birmingham, and they actually make these hats that everyone wears with the identifier codes on them for the airport. And I need to call him and just see if he could run some CQF.
One of the things they've asked us to do is have a door prize. Those would be great door prizes.
Nobody in the chamber is going to know what that is.
Well, that's cool.
Jack's gonna do the welcome.
Then it makes it a discussion piece. Like,
Yeah.
what is that?
That's right.
It forces you to talk about the airport.
There you go. Can we have our logo on there
We
too
can
on
have
one
our
side?
logo on there.
Logo on one side,
Whatever.
KQF on the
It's
other.
your hat, Jack.
We're going to get them all the same.
Yeah, that'd be good. So anyway, initially I was a little bit, not nervous, but I think Casey will come through for us. I think we're gonna get a lot of support from them, and I think it's a good way for us to, not many people have ever actually been to the airport. I think it's a good way to get our message out to. So, all right, anything else? I guess we got a motion passed, and I'll keep y'all updated. I will actually do a budget before the next meeting. I think I can do it for $1,000. I'm gonna get a couple of contributions too. So anyway.
I guess some say make Fairhope great again.
I'm not touching it.
Let's move on.
Okay, the next order of business is, we talked about this briefly last week, but Pam has a very good idea, I think.
No, we voted on it.
We voted on it. We actually were going to do it. And I guess this is the next step, is recruitment of an advisory board for the airport. And what this is a group of folks that have an interest in aviation, maybe not necessarily pilots, but certainly have an interest in aviation.
Well, in order to move forward with our overall master plan, we need more bodies with subject matter expertise in a variety of areas to carry out our master plan. And so taking a page from, for those of you who weren't here, taking a page from Thief, who has an advisory panel of 50 of subject matter experts who work with board members on specific projects. We're at a point that we need more bodies. We need subject matter expertise, but we're not at where we can monetarily compensate these people. So it would be service on an advisory panel for a minimum 1-year period. And the airport authority selects these individuals. They do not have any voting authority. They do not have the authority to commit the airport to anything. It all comes back to the board, and it must be voted on. But we need to start recruitment for that. I did draw up a mandate, which I had Josh review, and it basically just lays out, you know, what they can do, what we're expecting from them in working on specific projects. So it just said the purpose for the advisory council is for the members to provide the Fairhope Airport Authority with additional professional expertise, skill sets, and connections to resources to execute projects in furtherance of the master plan for the airport. The composition, they will be comprised of a minimum of 5 to 7 members as appointed by the Airport Authority, which created this advisory panel pursuant to powers granted the Airport Authority under Alabama State Code Section 4-3-47, subparagraph 6. The maximum number of the members in the advisory panel will be a number determined by the Board of the Airport Authority. And the method of selection will be selected pursuant to our recruitment and application process as we determine. The scope of work is the Airport Authority Board shall determine the scope of work for each project and communicate such in writing to those members of the advisory panel working on said projects. And additionally, each project will have an Airport Authority Board member that will be the liaison for that specific project to those people working on it and provide project oversight. Then these people will make their recommendations to the board, and we'll discuss it. If there's any adjustments, go back. And the final product is voted on by the Airport Authority. The limits of powers, they're only empowered to act on those items listed in the scope of work for the projects. No other powers are given or assumed. No member of the advisory council or the advisory council as a whole has any authority to bind or commit the authority to any course of action, that power being solely reserved for us on the Airport Authority Board. And all members shall agree to serve a minimum tour of 1 year, subject to renewal by the members of the board of the Fairhope Airport Authority. If this mandate is acceptable to the board here, I would like to get a motion to approve it, because now we need to start to go forward and recruit people for the projects that we identify, which I'll discuss next.
Do we have a motion to approve the
Mandate.
the mandate to form the council, or actually the responsibilities of the
Right.
council? We have a motion to approve the mandate, the responsibilities of the council?
A motion.
Second.
Okay. All those in favor of the
Oh,
mandate?
can we have some discussion?
Sure.
Sure.
Has the attorney reviewed that?
Yes.
I did. The only comment that I had that Pam incorporated into that is to make sure that it's understood that no member of the advisory council has any authority to bind the airport authority to any particular course of action. And there was also some question about whether this group would be subject to the Open Meeting Act, and they are not, but that is because they have no legislative or executive function to perform whatsoever. They're advisory in nature, and they will hopefully provide some assistance, but any and all decisions ultimately have to flow through this board in terms of any action that is taken.
And state statute does allow for, because we're appointed by a higher body or another body,
A body.
and a governing body, and so we do have the authority to appoint an advisory board, right?
Yes, we do.
It says that in there.
What the state code says is that the board of the airport authority has, I'm paraphrasing here, but has the power to do any and all things necessary to the efficient administration of the airport. So we're coming within sort of a blanket grant of authority to do certain actions that are within the best interest of the airport for its administration. There's not a specific statutory grant that says, yes, you can form an advisory council, But in my opinion, this falls within the purview of that sort of global grant of authority. Does that make sense?
And my vision for this is there's a lot of expertise on this board, but we don't have anybody who's good on social media or we need additional expertise on this board to really move it to where we need to. This is the way we can recruit that expertise to move the airport forward, if you will, in a fairly cost-effective way. And also to have people that are interested enough in the board, if we do have vacancies in the board, that they could step in and fill those vacancies and understanding what the mandate of the airport is.
My question is only related to legalities of,
Yes,
not whether or not
I
it was,
would not have brought it
good
before the
idea.
airport authority without running it by Josh.
Okay, so we've had a motion and a second. Can we vote? All those in favor of the mandate?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay.
Okay, so that leads us to kind of the next couple of things. Chip and Ray and I have been involved in a review of the minimum standards for the airport. And there is a lot that needs to be updated, that needs some subject matter expertise, particularly in construction and architectural review. And I think those were the two I mentioned. And we need to start to go forward and recruit members for this council, particularly that have those expertise, because we need to expand those sections of the minimum standards. And in fact, we don't have any construction standards right now or architectural review standards in our minimum standards. So before we can complete this overall update, that's the first area that we need to go out and recruit. And I was going to suggest that Vince and Ray, having the subject matter expertise in those areas, should take on recruiting for that.
We can find somebody to do it.
I think that'd be good, so that we can finish out the minimum standards.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, there's
This,
that.
there's some real simple things there Gulf Shores learned, like you can no longer put a Batman logo on your 60-foot wide door, you know, and here's the color choices and some very basic
That's
things
right.
that we have none of.
And that's why we discussed having an architectural review committee, so
Yes.
everything
That we have
that comes
uniform
up would
design.
be subject.
We need to decide upon the overall look of the airport and what we want, and have that going forward. Not only for the east side, but for the west side. And in part of updating the minimum standards, we have to develop a whole set of minimum standards for, right now, it's labeled for commercial aeronautical activities, but with the west side, you're not necessarily going to have aeronautical activities over there. You could have other types of businesses, and so we need to develop the standards that cover non-aeronautical commercial businesses.
Okay.
And we need to have ways that we can prohibit things that we don't want to go on the east side. I mean, and we need to have, ways that this board can basically say that we don't think that's appropriate for the east side.
And I think really what Pam's going through and what we'll go through by bringing in these advisory members is telling people what we do want rather than what we don't want. So people will have an idea of where they're headed before they get in here and subjective decisions take over. So I think that's kind of exactly where we want to get, where we don't have that problem.
And let's say we had 5 little groups like this that we want to do right now. How many do we want to get? 2, 3, 4 per group? I mean, just
On
an
the
idea.
advisory,
Yeah. I mean, like for the architectural review, we want to go find 2 guys or ladies or 3 or 5.
I think it's just subject matter dependent, like if we had a landscape architect, an architect, maybe a civil engineer, different people that may have that. And so it kind of depends on what you're looking at, who needs to be in the room, so.
Okay.
Okay, Okay, so those first subject matter experts in those areas, we're going to be leaving in your team's hands.
Okay.
And you need that pretty quick so you can finish the minimum standards.
Well, we need to get it started. There's not a deadline on updating these minimum standards, but in identifying everything we do need, we at least need to get going on that so that can get established within a reasonable time frame. Josh, did you look like?
We don't need specific individuals to form the architectural review committee, though, do we? I mean, in other words, we can create the committee within the minimum standards and then,
Well, the committee,
Yes.
the
Fill
review
that.
committee would be
Yes.
board members because they would
Yes.
have legislative authority.
exactly.
And so these people, these are just advisory
Right.
opinions to
you would not-
the
But there's
minimum standard.
language.
You would not want those advisory folks on an architecture review committee. That should be composed of board members.
Yes,
Right.
but there's subject matter expertise in lending language to what we should cover in the minimum
Sure.
standards is
Sure.
needed.
We do need to have the minimum standards done before we solicit or put out for an RFQ to build out the east side, to solicit hangars, because part of that RFP is see the minimum standards. So there is
So
a
when
time
are
frame.
We're not under the gun because we didn't get the grant this year.
If
But it's
we
coming
got the
up,
grant, we'd be
but
scrambling.
it's coming up again, so we
It is, so we
gotta
need to get
out of
ahead
the
of
We
the
have the
curve.
opportunity.
We have the
Yes.
opportunity to do it the right way.
Place.
We
Right.
really, yeah.
So that's,
So do we want to put a targeted completion date on it, Pam? And, I mean, that might help us also, so that we can give people some definitive, I mean, we'll say a year term, but the heavy lifting of these folks is going to be done within whatever dates you say.
okay, so if we take, looking forward and seeing when we might in the future be putting out an RFP for the east side, then we can work back from there. So do you have a time frame in the
June
future?
15th. Hank, I mean, we're gonna win that bid, and we're gonna set out an RFP for the east side on June 15th.
For construction.
For construction,
terminal,
yeah.
terminal area plan, or the, you know, the.
Then
actual
this- then
we
foundation,
need-
so.
Well, yeah, were we giving them 5 months if this is January, if we can get the people in February?
Well, we'd have to approve it at the last meeting in May for it to be something you could
Yeah.
advertise in June, so it'd be 4 months.
4 months.
Like, I guess it's still gonna take time for construction of the actual apron and tying the apron with connector taxiways to the runway, so you still have some time beyond that before, I guess you need to start getting building or architectural people on staff
But
to
Hank,
make a
if we
minimum
did it-
standard. I
No, when you
If
send
we were
out,
to do a bid in June and pick a contractor and say it's 6 months, so now we're gonna be December. At the same time, if we have done what we're talking about, we can go out and take pricing for hangars, and they can be working at the exact same time that we're doing this, so they both open at the same time.
You could, yeah.
So, yeah, we need to be done by June.
For both the hangar and for the general aviation terminal.
okay, so working with that timeframe to
We
recruit and
need-
get them.
May
Need to be through
15th.
by the middle of May, so we can have something here.
Is it, so would the process be that we would nominate people to be on the advisory board at the next meeting and give a name, and then they would be voted upon? What's the procedure, Josh, on how this would happen?
I don't think did we formalize a procedure for nominating members? I don't know if there is one.
Well, we said in the mandate that they would be, subject method of selection is the recruitment and application process as determined by the Board of the Authority, so it's up to us to determine it.
We need to have these people nominated by the next meeting
By next
so that we can
meeting.
have enough time to do
We
this.
have them identified and nominated, so we approve them with their CVs circulated, so we know what their expertise is, yeah.
Okay.
This isn't a motion, this is
What do you
just,
think, Jack?
is this a motion?
No,
This is just an update, so.
yeah, this is now the next. this
So
is
why
not
don't
the
we
next
all
step.
take a few minutes and think about people you would recommend, talk to those people, see if they're interested, and then forward them to Pam and.
Yeah, forward them to
Vince.
Vince and Ray.
Okay.
They're
And then while Ray and I are talking, we want to ask Chip a question, or we want to ask Will a question, we want to ask Pam, or, as long as there's no more than 3 of us, we're
We're
we're good to go. Okay.
Okay?
Because we might want to call somebody and say, hey, we were talking about so-and-so, show you what we were talking about, and get another opinion.
Okay, so that kind of leads into, we need those two, and then we need to be able to market the airport, particularly in social media. We need someone with the expertise that can maintain our website, that could help us have a platform on other social media platforms. I don't have that expertise. I don't know if any of you have that expertise, but that is another area that we will now want to go out and actively recruit an advisory panel member for, to, anyone that might be looking at us, they're going to go to the website. Should we have a LinkedIn page? Should we have other social media platforms? But that is the way people look at everything these days, is through social media. And beyond our basic website, we don't have a presence.
We don't have a social media presence.
We don't have a
Right.
Facebook page.
No, we don't have a Facebook page, but, again, somebody's got to maintain it. Somebody has to maintain a LinkedIn page. Somebody has to maintain the website.
And just so everybody's on the same page, we had a contract with DMR who did a very good job of developing a web page for us with links and content and whatever. I think we put that in place 2 years ago.
A year and a half.
My sense of it was at some point, they weren't developing any content. I mean, we were having to provide all the content. They were just basically updating the website. I didn't feel like there was value there. I really think the value in social media is the people or the person that does the content and promotes the thing on the social media.
We need to have,
platform.
profiles of, key people out there with Continental, and, we need to have profiles of the fly-ins that y'all have, or other events that we have out there. We need to keep it fresh so that people can see what's happening. And also because going along with overall economic development, if there were key pieces of news about other industries locating here, we'd want to put that on there if we knew that. Like when Seegers relocated, that type of thing, or, other large businesses, to keep pushing what we're pushing, which is it's a good place to live and to work and to play. So we need to go out and actively recruit a person to serve on the advisory panel that would help us get this going and keep it contents, because we need this to get to the next platform of developing the airport and also establishing more revenue streams, so that then we can engage monetarily a social media person and so forth.
Again, that was just for review, but that very well put.
And we're looking on that for an advisory person on a free basis. We're not
For
looking
a
to go
one-
hire someone.
At this point in time, yes.
But if they did a really, really good job and we really liked them and they did a lot of content, I think that, I would recommend that, yeah. I mean, if they got with the program, they knew what we did, they wrote good stuff, I think that would be a great hire. But just me
I was
having the
just
right,
thinking,
yeah.
Gary would be a great person to do the video side of it and prepare it. He's doing our websites now, and I'm paying him for it, and he's fixing.
He's a good guy.
I've already looked at them, they're gonna be fabulous. But that'd be somebody that would need to be paid, but he's also very cheap,
And very talented.
and he's extremely talented.
It's the intersection, though, of the marketing, the public relations, and the content. And I think that's, we're struggling with what every business in the country is struggling with, is like, how do you keep it fresh,
How do you find your
develop
identity?
content, and, make it cross-platforms, because you have different capabilities on all those different platforms that you want to do. And is it Facebook? Is it Twitter? Is it LinkedIn? What's it going to be? But I think that, simply, we do need someone on there, but I think there's just so much aviation information on the Gulf Coast, that if we could just link the Fairhope Airport to kind of reposting stories sometimes and letting people know that this is here, that it's going to potentially drive eyeballs to it, maybe from even the, the corporate clients that are going somewhere else, that they,
And if we just liked what was on our Facebook page, you can get a lot of, I mean, it's the multiplication effect if you just,
If we had a Facebook page, but still, someone needs to be able
I
to
agree.
do the linkages and keep the
Updates.
Facebook posts updated, keep the LinkedIn posts updated, et cetera.
So who's going to head that effort of finding that person? Is that you?
I'm gonna try.
Okay. And do you need someone to collaborate with on that?
It'd probably be helpful, yeah.
Okay.
Will?
You wanna help, Vince? Will?
I'll help.
Thank you.
Will's got quite the Facebook presence,
It's not Facebook, it's,
LinkedIn.
it's a blog
Yeah.
on WordPress.
Yeah, it's good.
It's about 500 views a day.
Well, that's good. So you've got a lot of expertise to contribute in finding this person.
Okay.
Well, he'll know when he sees it if they have what we need, because
Yeah.
the content's what makes people come back.
That's
where
it.
they just quit
That's what-
tuning in, so.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you. The Flatline Managers Report?
Well, wait a minute, you skipped Chip.
That was update on the review of the minimum standards.
I thought we.
I mean, we've been, I think Pam covered most of it, but Pam and Ray and I have gotten together and we're in the process of reviewing and
Realizing
adding
what
and
we've
deleting
done, yeah.
what we think needs to be appropriately done for the minimum standards.
And we're gonna.
Work in progress.
May 15th is the date we're gonna aim for the minimum standards update.
Yeah. Is that the meeting date? I mean, it's May 15th?
No, it's not.
Okay, I got you.
I'm sorry.
May meeting.
Yeah.
I can tell you that.
Chip and I can bring a bobber and a gyro to your hangar deal.
right.
We
Good
need
bet.
some
Good
social
gyro
media
rides.
there.
It is May 15th.
Okay,
But just
look at you.
Right?
He's scared.
Rain Man here. Memorize the calendar.
It is May 15th, that's just like.
Okay.
Joseph?
The placement of the cameras, we're still in discussions on that. We talked about that, you and I, yesterday.
But we're ready to go. If we get an integrated plan, we got it approved, $18,000. We're ready to put keypads and cameras in on the fifth line cameras.
The replacement of the concrete, they started on that today. They've already torn all the concrete. It's already cut, it's dug up, they've hauled it off, so they're gonna start. When I left to come over here, they were already getting ready to lay the forms and lay out the rebar.
They did that a lot faster than I thought they would.
It came up really easy. A lot of it was already busted.
It was already broken up.
Freezing day.
They just picked it up and put it up there.
And I extended it, he called us
Picked it
after, and
up.
I extended it 4 feet in
we
the
had
back
it
so it would tie into what was
picked it
there
up
already. It
little.
wouldn't be another extra $1,000, so.
Obviously, this time of year's not too.
He'll do a good job.
Yeah.
The distance
Take a
marker,
ride in it.
Kyle has replaced that.
Yes.
I'll go out on the runway tomorrow night, either tonight or tomorrow night. And I know we're still waiting on some transformers for a few of the taxiway lights, but most of the lights are working now.
I was told that we're down to 4 runway lights,
Taxiway
taxiway lights.
And I think they're on the south end.
That's 4 from about 44, so that's a pretty good,
Down to 4 non-working.
9 lights in the whole area.
Non-working, okay.
Transformer.
Not 4 working, right.
4 not working, yeah, 4.
That's 4 corners marked out.
4 non-working lights.
Just making sure.
Yeah, so that's been a real work in progress. I appreciate your efforts on getting that done. Chip, you too. I mean, that's our accomplishment for the fall.
I'm still looking at the bridge, trying to find a core. It's a galvanized decking that we can lay across there, 4 feet by 8 feet, to just lay across that culvert so you can walk back and forth.
And that
There
would-
never was one there to begin with, but it would make access easier because the customers that park on that end, park on the road down there, it's easier for them to access their hangar from that side.
And it'd probably encourage people to park on the road versus
As
driving
opposed to
down
going
the
on the
ramp.
airport.
It's driving, correct, excuse me, coming down the rail. The weather stripping, it's been cold, so that's, So we are working on that, replacing the gaskets on the doors and then putting the sweeps on the hangers. Some of the hangers are fine as far as the door sweeps, it's just the gaskets on the side, and there are vice versa, so there's just a few.
So you're doing both the gaskets and the weather stripping? is
Some
that-
of, correct, some of the doors, the sweep, is some of the door sweeps have.
It's under, at the bottom of the door.
I should know this, did you get electrical?
Sorry,
Personnel door,
it's on the T-hangers?
it's on the sliding doors.
Right.
It's on the slide doors, it's just
Correct.
kind of like a broom type thing, I think, to keep stuff from coming in under the
Right.
doors, it's just falling out.
Parts of it are just broken on, they just wear out
Yeah.
over time.
This is not, this shouldn't be in your report, but the new 10-foot fencing, we talked about that. It's actually on County Road 13, but we're looking to do that to secure the airport, and we're looking to make sure that we can get FAA reimbursement before we do it. So when we get that finalized, I'd like to go ahead and do that if we could, with the idea that we could get reimbursed for that sometime.
First thing is, if it's not 10 foot, it would only need to be 6 foot.
Well, we got 10-foot fencing out
You got 10
there.
foot fencing out there now?
Well, that's what we left over from the first job.
No, that's 6 foot.
Okay, we got 6 foot.
Yeah, that's 6 foot
Okay.
chain link with a 3-strand barbed wire on top of it.
Okay.
So that would meet the requirement for security of the airport as far as FAA standards go. And Kevin with the FAA did say that could be reimbursable through this year's grant, but we just need to make sure we put it in a location that's not gonna have to be picked up and moved.
Next time you're out there, just call me and I'll meet you out there and we'll walk it, okay?
Okay, maybe we can do that.
And,
We need 6 foot and 3 barbed wire strands.
Yes, sir, it'd be 6 foot with 3-strand barbed wire.
And
Can't-
Vince, we have that fencing out there, you know what I'm saying? We went out of the poles, and we got a price of $14,000 to do it, but then I showed him the fencing, he reduced it down to 8. So we can do this for $8,000. So let's just walk it sometime and we'll move that. That's a priority with me. That makes me feel unsafe.
Yeah, it's gotta be
And
included.
Kevin's good with it. I mean,
Okay.
He wants security to the airport, especially in the interim until we get that expansion finished.
We have that money. You want a motion and we go ahead and move with this and get it done?
What I like is a motion that you give me the flexibility to do it, within, to work with, to actually do it, to commit to do it, in the next 3 to 4 weeks and up to $10,000.
All right, I'll make a motion that we get Joe up to $10,000 to get us a 6-foot tall fence with 3 barbed wire strand on top to finish securing the airport on Baldwin County Highway 13.
Yeah.
I'll second.
That will be FAA reimbursable.
That will be reimbursed by the FAA.
Where is this? Where are we talking?
You know where the
The
construction
access
gate
road.
was?
Yeah.
It was, they just left that barbed wire there. It's on that 13
no
from.
fence.
So will it secure 32, the entrance on 32 there?
It's 13. That's a mistake here. It's
32 is secured.
Okay.
32 is secured
Mhm.
with the gate and padlocks and
Okay.
new fencing.
This will be our last unfenced area.
That'll be our last one.
Are we secure over there off of 32 now?
We
Yeah.
are, yes, sir.
Yeah.
Okay, we should have a second, and then we can go.
I think we
We
have
have
a
a
second.
second.
We have
We
a
have a
second.
And if you ever want to show that to an industrial prospect, I have a key to that gate.
Okay.
Because if somebody ever wants to see that, I have a key that I can, to that padlock on the gate going into it.
Approximately how many feet are lacking on 13? 100 feet roughly?
400 feet.
I would say, you had that 58-acre parcel that was to the north next to, what's the guy that farms that strip of
Street.
land?
Streets.
From his corner back
To the woods.
yeah, it would go all the way back to the south.
Is that enough? Is that actually enough? Really? That's 10,000 going to cover it?
Well, we have a lot of the fencing already.
We have the fencing.
Okay.
We're
So I may have to.
a good bit of labor.
Yeah, I just don't want to have to come back. And the other thing is, you said that would be FAA reimbursed, but you don't, that's not a guarantee, and we don't want that to be contingent
Well,
upon
it is
the
gonna be-
motion to be.
I'm not gonna do it unless it's I'm not gonna do it without.
Kevin says what his words are is that it is eligible.
Okay.
Until the grant is actually executed, you don't have the money in hand.
Yeah, but we still need the fence. What I'm saying
need
is,
the
we're gonna do the
fence.
fence whether we get paid for it or
Even if
not.
he
We're
comes
gonna
back
put in
and
and get
says, "No."
reimbursed, but if they tell us no, we're not gonna have a gap in the fence, right?
No, we still need that.
So I would take that, I wouldn't put that language in there. We'd say we,
We anticipate
We-
reimbursement, but that's not a
well,
condition.
we'll apply for reimbursement.
I'll amend my motion then. So we'll just go ahead and spend up to $10,000 to get that fencing in. I mean, I've got a bid. I've got 2 bids.
Yeah, and that's, like I say, we'll submit it in with the grant.
Sure.
And
Absolutely. I just didn't want that motion to say that,
Okay.
and
I
then,
agree.
because if it gets turned down, we're doing it,
Turned
right?
down. We're not gonna take the
We need
fence
to-
down.
we need- I worry about that as much as I do anything.
Right, sure.
All right, next one's mine too. Joe, you can talk about
Do
it.
we need to vote?
We need to vote.
Okay, all those in favor of giving the chairman the authority to extend the contract up to $10,000 to put the fencing on the east side on County Road 13, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right, those opposed? Thank you. Joe, you want to talk about the vegetation removal?
Yeah, that would be for Kyle Kleiner.
Okay, I'm gonna
He
do
said
that,
he'd do
but-
it. I talked to him about it.
But I think now, before the springtime gets here, now would be the optimum time to cut those trees down because the lack of, the easier access to the culverts, at the
Those
tall
things.
grass.
It'll be, this is an MS4 requirement of the city. We drain in the weak space watershed, and that watershed has to be, we have to manage our runoff off the airport. So there's about a 90-yard culvert, if you will, that's basically overgrown with some popcorn trees and whatever, and so the MS4 recommendation was that we clean that culvert out, and, we probably just need to do that.
Yeah, there's a couple of culverts
Yeah.
in between the taxiway and right towards the end of 19.
Yeah.
That culvert needs to be, that popcorn tree needs to be cut down. as
We
well.
cut the popcorn tree down and then get something and get the excess debris out of the culvert.
You'll have to spray the sprouts from the popcorn tree in the spring again.
That's a good thing, so we'll get, yeah. But, it's basically taking away it's displacing water out of our culvert, so. Hank, do you have any thoughts on that?
I mean, any vegetation you can get out of it, if you got riprap, something there to de-energize it, less vegetation you have inside that riprap, whether it be shrubs or bushes, whatever, the better it's gonna be. To me, I look at that as a simple maintenance, not maybe simple, but it is a maintenance item that it is outfall, has to be treated as such, and there is some maintenance that's involved with it.
We'll do it. I don't have a firm estimate on that. I'll bring that back up to the group in February. But I think it'll be around $1,500 to $1,800.
Do you not want to do it now, just because now, if we approve it in February and then we get into March and things start springing on the spring, I don't know. I'd almost rather, give you, I don't even know, do you even have to have a vote to spend,
I don't. I think
some money like that?
what I've tried to do is no, I think I
For
can
maintenance?
just do it. I think I can do it. Why don't y'all give me the approval to do up to $2,000 to do this MS4 maintenance on the airport, required by the city, and I'll spend your money wisely.
I make a motion to authorize the chairman of the board to spend up to $2,000 for vegetation removal to comply with the MS4 requirement.
Thank you. Do I have a second? All those in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank y'all. Final thing, Joe, fire extinguishers.
They are on order. We're just waiting for them to come in, but as soon as they come in, we'll start putting them in, and we're going to space over a 3-month period.
And you ordered how many fire extinguishers?
20, David, how many was it? The number of fire extinguishers we ordered total?
$6,000 worth.
But they've been ordered.
Oh, yeah, they've been ordered. I got an email from Dana Mercer's company, Financial. They ordered on the 8th, and when they come in, as soon as they get here, will be the first installment. It should be this month. I'm looking at maybe weekish or so.
Okay.
believe it was
Will you-
26
Will you
total.
put them, will you mount them in the?
Yes, sir, they'll be mounted. But I want to say it's 26 total. We have 24 for the T-hangers, and then we have 2 for the ramp.
Thank y'all for doing that. I would appreciate that. That's good.
For the ramp? Yes, sir, we'll have one on the south and one on the north ramp.
Before we go off.
They should be
this, I
wheeled
do
units,
another
we can
issue.
move it, we
Probably
can roll them
things in
to
this.
where we need to get them to.
Okay. While we're still on the FPL manager's report, are there anything else we need to add to this list?
Well, I noticed, and it was from one of, a complaint about leftover equipment from Bone Construction. I drove by there today, there's a dumpster, there's a trailer, and there's 2 trucks.
I
Yeah,
agree,
There's
but
nothing, not like you portrayed it in the email that. it's-
he's still not finished with the inside of that hangar. I mean, he's got a CO
Okay.
for the hangar itself, but he's got a 4,000-foot office space that he is not finished with. And I'll be honest with you, I know it's taking a long time to do it, but at this point in time, I would just rather, I mean, he'll finish it. It'll just take probably another month or so. And there's a chance he may pave the road. I mean, he's actually called me for the number of who did our paving. So, I mean, there's a chance he may just, because that's how he is, he may just pave that whole back road. So I really don't want to go down that rabbit hole if I don't have to.
He's still got an open building permit working on the office part,
On the
right?
office space.
Okay.
So, he has not closed that building. That's permit.
And then the lights, the dusk dawn lights, we're doing that in a phase as well right now. I had an electrician out today to work with the fuel farm, so we get all 4 lights working. They had to order some parts, they'll be back toward the end of the week. I have a vending machine's gonna be delivered by the end of the week for the FBO, so that's gonna be.
What is
That's a matter
this?
of interpretation.
And we got
It
flags.
says snacks
And the
provided
flag is-
and beverage vending machines, so it's kind of how you read the minimum standards.
Well, this is gonna have both, it's gonna have.
So,
it's gonna have-
so those are your issues, the vending machine?
Well, I mean, that was just.
I know.
Yeah.
Keurig,
What?
Well, the Keurig's already there.
yeah, the Keurig.
Yeah, we know we've got.
I don't know if that's up to our minimum standards.
It's-
Let's get a little
I've
old.
already got-
It's better than what we had.
Oh, has he got a new one?
Yeah,
No, we got a Keurig.
I got-
Before cocaine, we didn't have a
I'll be
Keurig.
revised.
The cookies are good.
Yeah.
These popcorn,
Might get a
Yeah.
and the vending machine will have
Send
snacks
me
as
a
well as
text.
drinks as well.
And
So
Joe
the
is-
honor system snacks are gonna be gone. Now you gotta pay for sure, right?
And Joe did pick up the trash on the County Road 32, which we appreciate. It had gotten a little ratty over
Control.
Christmas, yeah.
And I noticed this morning there's some, I'll have to go out and
But
pick
if y'all
up.
would do that periodically, we would really appreciate
Right.
that. It
Oh,
makes-
another one was the floodlights.
Oh, yeah.
at the entrance.
Tell the
to the
council
sign
that.
For the Sunny County Airport.
Can y'all come
Floodlights are
over,
broken.
can you talk to somebody with the city and better design for that sign out there?
Well, you got the one on the backside that's painted, which,
Yeah.
we could come up with a better.
Jack, your
design.
lights are out, so they can't see you at
It's like to
night.
say, if I had my name on it, I'd go out there and fix it, Jack.
Well, it
I'm no artist.
It would be nice if we had some signage at the airport that reflected the new logo and went along with our
That's what we do.
rebranding and so
Jack, who
forth.
do I need to call to tell them about those lights being out?
You need to call the Public Works Department.
And just give you a
And I
list.
don't know if that couldn't be something that.
If you remind me, I'll call.
I will.
You know, if there's, somebody say at Coastal Community College, that might, as a student, want to do the signage as part of a project for their CV to go out,
Well, we're
something
gonna
like
get new
that.
signage when we flip the airport.
Call Sherry Lee and ask them to, ask her to, seriously, just ask her, she'll talk to
I
them.
will. She did it once before. So I'm not-
You should just call her directly and ask her if she'll handle it.
Okay.
So we cover all Scott's, we got all Scott's things on here?
I think so.
No, but most of them.
I have to go, you want me to look through my list?
No, I don't. He just needs to take writing lessons. He is so talented. All right, the treasurer's report.
All right, you guys, got that copy of the report. There were a couple of extraordinary items that were on here that were, that I think Joe was gonna mention. We just talked about the LED lighting. The Allen Enterprises for $2,300, $48.69. Then there was also the striping and then the battery cell repair. And so, Joe, would you just?
Yeah, I mean, as our custom is, we basically put we have a lot of reoccurring expenses, but these are basically what I call the maintenance or non-reoccurring expenses. And we had basically we did the striping in December. We did the lights, we had to buy the bulbs and all the supplies to repair the lights. And then we did the battery cells. We have a standby backup generator there that we really had not maintained in about 18 months. We spent about $1,000 bringing it up and getting a maintenance routine on it. So that's kind of those expenses. So that, that's basically it was about $7,000 of, not non-budget expenses, but maintenance items that we had to do in December, just as, that's what we do. We spend money to maintain the airport. So that's pretty much it. That's pretty much it. Any other questions? I mean, that's, I guess there were a couple of other things. One, you look there on the revenues, we're renegotiating with the public safety hangar, the public safety folks, their lease. And their lease actually matured in September 30th, and they're very difficult to negotiate with, and they don't return phone calls, but we've got an agreement in principle that they will renew their lease, and that they will increase the lease rate pretty significantly. So I feel good about that, but we just don't have it. That's why you'll see that we haven't got any public safety hangar rent really in the last, since September. So really, that we're working on that. That'll come in all. They'll pay us. They'll pay us. Pay us up front for that, or pay us. We'll capture all that. Any questions? I mean, we've got about $500,000 in cash.
Well, that says, is that year-to-date right on public safety rent?
Well, sometimes they get slided wrong. That should have been slided in September. That should have been last year. See, they probably paid on October 1st for September, but they have not paid October, November, December, January's rent. That September rent should have been slided in 2000, in fiscal year 2007.
So is it a new agreement entirely, or are they on an option?
They were 5 years. For whatever reason, they have a 5-year maturity of the lease. So the old lease was $667 a month, and this one is $745 a month. So, and with a 3% escalation clause every year.
The question is that they have just kind of they're a one-party negotiation on that space, or is it because of public safety, or is there some sort of agreement?
I never thought about, you would say like lump them and get something.
$700 a month.
What?
$700 a month.
$735 a month.
I mean, I'm just saying, there seems to be a lot of people that want to be.
Seemed like a bargain to me.
It probably is a
Two
bargain.
T hangers are $640, and you could put at least 3 airplanes in
Right.
there.
Well, I just,
Well,
Well, they did build it. I mean, they did build it. I mean, I'm not sure what the value of that. They built it 10 years ago. I mean, I'm not sure what the value of.
This is a ground lease.
it's a ground lease that's matured, and so the improvements have reverted to the authority. And now they are wanting to maintain occupancy on it, but don't have any lease term left.
I mean, that's one of the things that we brag about when somebody builds a new hangar, we say it becomes an asset that we'll make a lot of money off of at maturity.
Yeah. Well, guys, I hadn't approached it with the idea that I was going to kick them out.
Kick them out,
If y'all want to kick
but I think you're in a little bit better negotiating position. I hate to say, I know they can watch this, but $700, I mean, for that,
$735, but okay.
But still, I think that's a little below.
I just think we have an obligation at the end of the day, these assets, they have to be, I just think you have to look at it. And I don't know if that's the right time during the treasurer's report to do that.
Should be maybe some consideration because it's public safety,
There's some-
but
some.
not
And
that price,
And that they
because
built it
that's a
with their
dirt
own,
cheap
they built
price.
this $300,000 thing with their own money. I know it does, and it's only been 10 years, so it's.
but that's why they probably paid a very low rent too,
Yes.
right? I mean, that rent for that facility at $663, $67, I don't know.
Well, what do y'all charge hangar rent for an airplane in your community hangar?
Well, it depends on the size of the airplane, but a citation's $600,
What about just a Cirrus?
$240.
So you
You
could
get
probably
three
put,
240s in
you
there.
could probably put 3 or 4 in there, and there's $1,000 a month
4 would be $1,000 a month. 3 would be.
On a bad day.
on a bad day. I mean, that hangar's what, we figured 70 by 80,
70 by 80.
If it's 600,
You
you
can put
can
4
get 5,
airplanes in there.
maybe 6 in there. If they're all single engine planes.
And this new lease
You
is
get
also
$1,200,
for a
$1,400 a month out of there in a
The
heartbeat.
new lease will be for 5 years. But the fact that they hadn't done it in 5 months, I don't feel too I mean, I could, they haven't exactly been timely in getting back with me. I could,
Does our current lease with them, if we don't renegotiate, are they paying at the current rate? I mean,
I don't think so. I think they hadn't been paying.
Well, then they're,
That's even a better price.
What if I get a spot from you?
and
I
why,
mean, let's do that's where the governor flies into, guys. I mean, it's not like, there are reasons to keep it, to keep the public safety hangar there. Or to keep, maybe we should get a better.
I think there are reasons, we just need to enunciate what they are, like, so that there's not revisited as a.
Yeah, it's a problem.
Yeah.
All right.
All right, so I'm moving on to are there any other questions about the treasurer's report here?
I've got one.
Okay.
Is it, on the income statement, is it standard municipal accounting practice to include the principal payment on debt service as an expense line item?
It is, there's 2 sets of financial statements here. One are truly general accounting practices for municipalities. The other one's kind of a made-up version. But yes, for general accounting practices for municipalities and governments, they do, the expense of the principal is shown.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
yes.
Actually, it's a liability reduction
Yeah.
on a for-profit corporation and not an expense. But this is different, I guess.
Totally different.
You're talking about the 12,000.
12,993.
Yeah. Anything else? And the way I look at this is we've got, $155,000 in the PNC operating account. That's money to pay our 5% portion on next year for the FAA grant, and then we've got about $400,000 of truly working capital that we can use to pay our reoccurring expenses. And we do okay. I mean, we make about $10,000 to $12,000 a month from non-recurring items. Questions? Okay. That's basically any other business. I'd like this to take, Pam, any other business?
yeah, I would just like to give Casey Williams,
Yeah.
President of the Eastern Shore Chamber, an opportunity to speak for a couple of minutes, because she was offered a lot of reasons why the social marketing, that we need to go forward and why it is very important. So if you just take 2 or 3 minutes, Casey, to go over that.
We got a discussion, as most of you, I'm sure know, the business after hours for March 1st will be held at the airport by design. I have felt, when I first came into this position a year ago, going out to the airport and taking a tour and seeing the growth and seeing what was going on out there, that it was a great story. And so we wanted to encourage all of the Eastern Shore to do the same and come to the airport, see what an asset it is to us as the full community from, north of 225 all the way down below the hotel. More and more these days, people rent jets, have their own, on all the economic development panels that I've been to at different conferences, one of the things that they talk about as a key element are a strong municipal airport within the vicinity of any economic development possibilities, such as the DISC project in Daphne. Not to mention our own property around the airport and other places where economic development can be found. I feel like that our airport story should be told through both a robust website and also through social media. Again, in a lot of the sessions that I sit in on, even manufacturers who have a very small niche market find great benefit to having a social media presence. which kind of is counterintuitive to what you might imagine. But in this digital connection world that we live in, having the story told both from, we have events at the airport, the fly-in that's going to be coming in March. You have people interested in the airport. You have people who do their own online research. You know, even economic development possibilities do a lot of online research on their own without necessarily going through another resource or through a company. So I think it's important as, number one, an economic development engine, also to tell the story about our tourism, people coming into the hotel. You know, I feel that it's important that we have the message out there and tell the story about the airport, because we do have end users. It does increase economic development capacity. And among other things, people just searching out there looking for, need to know that the Fairhope Airport is there. I Googled and did a couple of other smaller airports, and there's a presence there. So in our discussion, when we were discussing business after hours, I mentioned some of these things, and Pam asked me to come share it with y'all, because I do think it's important. And having a web presence, having a social media presence, having a digital presence isn't a very expensive proposition anymore. There's a lot of folks out there who can put together, keep your brand, do your content, but certainly share the story of our airport and the great things that y'all are doing to make it a better place. So,
Thank you, Casey.
Would you, among the chamber membership, would you give some thought and get back to us on some individuals within the chamber that you might know of that would have an interest in aviation and be proficient in web presence?
absolutely, absolutely.
We're looking for people on an advisory committee, and we need some folks in that niche.
Yeah, well, absolutely, I'll be happy to do that. I'll get that to y'all. And you know, just the other day, a good friend of my daughter's who is a captain and a pilot for American Airlines, you know, he was talking about he's been checked out in some rental jets and some different things, and you know, the possibilities increase every day of the different people who are looking for unique travel opportunities in a more personalized, you know, jets and that kind of thing. I just think it's a great story, and I think we could benefit from telling that to a broader audience and not wait for somebody else to tell the story for us. So,
Thank you.
Thank
And
you,
we look forward
Casey.
to the business after hours. We've got some other guests. Anna, why don't you?
Oh, yep. I'm Anna Goldman. I'm with Warren Averett CPA firm.
Goldman, not Goldberg.
Goldman, yeah.
Sorry.
But I'm working on the audit of the federal grant revenue that you've received this year. So I'm just here observing.
And Val and David?
Val Passarelli. Obviously, Bill Stromberg retired this past month, so I'll be taking over his duties, and looking forward to working with all you guys.
David Scher, I'm operations manager at the airport, so facilities, health and safety. Some of the things Joe would normally take care of are gonna be falling on me.
Thank y'all for both coming, and we appreciate your input.
And we'll be, there's quite a few items on this list that Ray that's probably been there for a while, so we'll definitely help them out to get
Oh,
them pulled
appreciate
out.
that.
So if there's anything else that comes up, just give me a call and I'll.
Well, I think the list itself is a way we can keep track of what we're doing. I mean, this list was twice as long 2 months ago, but we've knocked it down pretty good. So, but it's just an ongoing battle. Hank?
Two things. One, I wanted to kind of bring everybody up to speed, and me and Joe's been talking about the sewer line issue that we had last year. We have provided a force main versus gravity system comparison based on the bid results of 3 bidders from the previous bid in July of 2017. The differential in cost, the way I came up or compared those two between the force main versus the gravity is I averaged all 3 unit prices from all 3 bidders, or all unit prices from all 3 bidders. Compared those, came up with, I think it was an 870-something% cost difference between force main versus gravity. We submitted that in the form of a letter to Joe, who then passed that up to Mr. Peterson for review. with the hopes of getting that approved so that we would either stay that route or say, okay, well, if the 500% rule plays in, can we go back to the drawing board and go back to the force main that we originally proposed in the very beginning that would be eligible for 100 or 90% reimbursement through the feds? Mr. Peterson still has some questions about that. Just to bring you guys up to speed, I've sat down with my utility engineers, Melissa O'Sullivan, which was the engineer of record for the utility, and her manager at Volker, Mr. Ray Miller. We had a long discussion this morning about how we need to move forward with this because time is of the essence. We do know that from an engineering standpoint, there's nothing really else to design other than the sewer once an agreement's made on what we need to do. But Mr. Peterson is going to be the one that ultimately decides, I guess, how he wants us to proceed with you guys' approval and I guess the city council's approval. So what I've asked my utility personnel to do is to have a meeting with him, figure out what his end goal or his most optimum solution to the sewer problem would be, and then come to you guys and let you guys know what he's proposing, and then I can make a contact with the FAA to find out what would be reimbursable versus what would not be reimbursable. But the process is starting. I will say that the FAA will be wanting to see engineering agreements between the airport authority and the engineer by February 15th, which means if we need to redesign the sewer, we need to have a solution on what we're going to do so that we can move forward with making changes to the engineering of the sewer by the 15th, so we can sort of have something that we're moving forward with.
Hank, did you say 870%?
It was 873% cost difference.
9 times cost. Do you have the dollar amounts?
I can send you
I
the,
do.
I'll
I've
send you the, yeah.
Yeah, I just brought a copy of it just in case I need to go back to it. I can let you guys have this. But this is what we turned in. And it does show the difference. And basically this 840,000 was the average of what we originally turned in based on what Mr. Peterson wanted, the gravity and the force main together. And then
57,000 is grinder pumps?
Yep.
well, that would be nothing but a 3-inch
That's
force
the line.
main, just the line, with some
And then we'd
flushing valve assemblies that were part of
We'd
that.
force the tenants to make the grinder pump.
Right, yes.
Force the tenants to buy the ground.
So that cost that's shown on there does not include the cost of
Right.
anything off of that trunk line to the hangers. It's just the line that would be the maintained portion of the line for the municipality or
Even on the gravity fed.
Ray, how much is your?
Well, the gravity fed-
Water bill a month?
It's just the line.
Well, no, that has a lift
$10.
station and everything. In order to do gravity, you have to have a lift station, gravity to
But
a
it's not
lift station, and
$15.
force main back out of it.
All right,
You think
but-
he's paying the utility bill?
I bet somebody is.
I mean, you think he's writing the check?
No, but he knows.
He's probably paying it. Yeah.
But on the gravity fee, someone else is gonna have to pay the city a tap fee then to tap in backflow preventers and still run their line from there out, just like they would have to do on the gravity.
They would
pump.
run it, in most cases on a gravity system, they go to the right of way. So you don't have a box on a gravity system. You have a 4-inch line coming from a residence or from a commercial building that runs to the right of way. From that right of way line back to that structure, it belongs to that owner. And then from that right of way back out to inside the city or municipality's right of way is maintained by the municipality or the utility
Where would the
company.
backflow preventer go?
Backflow preventer would only go on a force main. You don't have a backflow prevention on gravity.
You don't have it on gravity at all.
Nope.
Really?
That's a stack and lateral, and it goes straight to an 8-inch pipe fed to a manhole. No backflow prevention on a gravity system. Force main, the reason you gotta have a backflow prevention is because it's always under pressure. It'll push back. The grinder pump that pushes the raw water to the force main and the lift station that's carrying the water from a force main to a manhole, it can go both ways. So that's why you have to have a backflow preventer.
How much is a grinder pump?
I think they'd range depending on capacity, volume, or size, 30 to 50, 70 gallon, anywhere from 3,500 to 10,000.
They have about a 12-year or 10-year.
10 to 12-year lifespan on them. And that's all dependent on how somebody treats them.
If you put a toilet in a hangar with no shower,
Yeah.
you're gonna buy a $3,000 grinder.
Yeah, you would run the risk of that pump not running enough to fail versus being overused in the situation that I think we're
Your
talking about.
seals will dry up before it.
That would be what I would think. But nonetheless, I just wanted to give everybody an update, kind of let everybody know, stress the timeline on what we're looking at.
How
And then
are we gonna beat that time frame?
Richard committed to it, and he said he would get it. He saw the problem. He doesn't agree with our solution, but he said he would get us a response by February 15th.
And what was his reasoning for not agreeing with our solution?
Keep
That-
me posted on what he says too.
That's the whole purpose of the meeting that my people are going to have with you. Try to find out exactly what
Where he's
he
coming
would
from.
like to have.
Yeah.
And then let's see whether or not the feds agree to it and would be
Because
able to
I
reimburse.
personally think the misconception is we're not building a house. We don't have 3.5
we don't have
bathrooms.
flow.
We don't have a kitchen sink. We
Yeah.
don't have a dishwasher. Now, somebody might have a shower and a toilet and a mop sink that are gonna get used, you know, a tenth of what, or probably 100th of what a house does.
Yeah.
That's the misconception that's out there.
Yeah, and I agree with that. I think everybody's, if you're basing it on a 3-bedroom home with 4 people in it, you figure on like 600 gallons of water a day. That's what.
The other part of that is the build out on the east side is 20 years, not like a subdivision. That'd be 3 to 5 years.
So,
Orange Beach built about every
Well-
road they have with grinder pumps.
and the other thing to keep in mind, everybody, is that even if we can't ultimately come to a decision on the sewer, it's not to say that you can't move forward with going ahead and doing the apron expansion, putting the water line in, putting the power line conduit in, and the fiber communication conduit in. You can still move forward with that, and that's still eligible. I mean, that's what Kevin's trying to get us in the grant. So the only problem is you may not get another chance to get the FAA to kick in some money on the sewer, and the way to do it is to get it right now.
What
That's
size?
the thing.
What size the gravity line versus force?
8 inches gravity, that's minimum.
And the
8-inch gravity with 6-inch laterals.
And the depth of the gravity is so, that's the killer, and you have to go so
Yeah.
far.
Well, where they proposed to put it was out by 13. Well, the lowest structure that you would have based on the airport layout plan that everybody agreed to, the terminal building, would essentially be where you started. Well, the terminal building is at the lowest grade. So, if you start at the lowest grade and the existing terrain's going up, you're going against grade to lay negative to get to the lift station out by 13. So you end up at 16, 17, 18 foot deep laying 8-inch gravity sewer, which is expensive. So, that was the first thing, just wanted to kind of update everybody on that. You'll probably be having some discussions, I'm sure, and as I get some information from my guys, I'll pass it on. The other thing was the utility pole location I presented. I didn't know if y'all needed to vote on that or whatever. I sent
As long as, we've been asked by a company to basically put a utility pole so they provide internet service for a subdivision adjacent to the airport. There's some issue about where the pole can be. We'll get $100 a month, $100 a year rent for the utility pole. I mean, as long as you're okay with where it goes,
Yeah, I just want to make sure that you guys are okay with it, because it is going on your property. I don't want to try to put it in a spot where it's going to impact future development.
How tall of a pole?
40 foot.
40 feet high.
Just $100 a year?
You need
Wouldn't you
to
have to
check
have
on what the
something
city's
with
getting
that?
for water tower
I think,
leases.
that's why I think.
And,
Yeah.
I mean,
Figure out the height.
we
Yeah, we can
got,
get more than that.
yeah.
Yeah, I think we would
Well,
check on that.
I guess I've put everything together
Okay,
to
so-
submit that to the FAA for approval. I don't see it, based on what I'm saying, 40 foot wouldn't impact anything as far as the airport operations go. The only thing, the process of going through that, this is something that is operating on a frequency. So we need to make sure that frequency doesn't conflict with air traffic operations. That is part of the 7460, so we've got that information from the guy that sent us all the
It's Point
technical
Clear,
data.
it's that Point Clear that,
We'll just send it up, they'll make sure that the frequencies aren't gonna conflict. I don't anticipate anything being wrong. I just want to make sure that when we turn it in, the location, everybody's good with. And if everybody's good with it, I'm going to proceed on.
Okay.
I think you need to talk to our treasurer about what kind of revenues we get.
I will
for
defer to
those
the treasurer on
leases.
getting.
We could go off a percentage basis instead of a flat fee.
I'll defer to our treasurer. You're a better negotiator.
No, the
You've been
city
watching
treasurer
Shark
about
Tank.
what the city's getting for
Get on
these
that.
leases, for
Oh.
these tower leases. It's
Yeah, that's way, that's
about
negligible.
40 times what you're saying
Yeah,
a
but
month.
this only serves 12 houses. Okay. I hear what you're saying. I will defer. I will, but I haven't
Chip, you
committed
been watching
anything.
Shark Tank? You want a percentage? a
Anything
perpetual
else?
percentage?
Anything else? Anything else for the good of the group? Okay, thank you all for being here, and I'll adjourn the meeting at 5:20.